Hey guys, it's John, and welcome back to The Letter. A cloudless night sky greets me when I walk out of the cafe. Beyond the tall buildings, a blanket of stars spreads out before me. Isabella once told me that the best place to view it is someplace outside the city, away from the noise and the obtrusive lights. She'd seen it once in her mum's hometown and another time in the university she used to attend. Then she asked if it's possible to try it out here sometime. I agreed with her at the time, if only because she appeared excited at the mere prospect of it. We made those little plans along with Zachary and Ashton. Though up until now, we never got around to it. Even so, I find myself enjoying this, despite being told it's only half the experience. Little things, you know? Stuff you learn to appreciate when you're alone. Because at certain times you get to meet people who are unfortunately born with the innate talent to ruin the mood and the scene with their mere existence alone. Sounds a little bit autobiographical, Rebecca. For example, the very driver of the car fast approaching my direction. Luckily, he doesn't notice me. But the fleeting moment we pass each other by gives me a brief glance of the people he's with. Kylie's sitting on the back seat with a serving of bread pudding in her hands. Who's that? Beside her? Or beside him? And beside him, it must be his wife. He takes a turn and disappears at the nearest corner. But throughout the night, that cursory glimpse of all things to bother me has left me wondering what kind of person his wife is. And more than that, it's a silent prayer to the universe. I hope I don't ever cross paths with that douche again. I think Luke is possessed. I think Luke has been possessed for a long time. Maybe he's been to that mansion before. I don't know, but I think he's possessed by the former owner of the house, the male former owner of the house, and I think Hannah is possessed by the female owner of the house, the same one who locked Marianne in the basement, or rather in the wine cellar. And from the one memory fragment that I've uncovered when Zach died, I think that the owners abused some sort of handmaiden or maid, whatever. And I think she's the one who's saying help me and the one that's represented in the ghost visions. But I don't think that it's her. It's pretty clear that the previous homeowners, who seem to be evil people, I think they can disguise themselves as her for visions, because when Marianne was locked up at the end of her chapter, the ghost girl kind of like phased in and out of existence, and you could see the old female homeowner in her place. It's very interesting. But yeah, I think Luke has been possessed for a while now. After having such an eventful day, anyone will think nothing will surprise me anymore. But here I am, standing at the top of the stairwell, watching an odd scene unfold before me. Relief crosses my mind first, followed by confusion.
What is she doing there?
Although given what happened this morning, the question feels a bit inappropriate to ask directly. What's important is Isabella's here. She's sitting cross-legged on the hallway, just right in front of her room, with several papers and folders scattered about. Each of them seems as important as the next. More than once, upon giving the scene a quick scan, I spot Briar Realty's logo at the topmost area of the pages. Everything considered, looks like a mess made by a third grader working on crunch time. The landlady will have a few things to say about this when she finds out. I have a few things to say about this myself, in fact. But something in the calm, focused manner she holds herself at present keeps me from disturbing her with that reminder. She's going through each paper with this intensity. Sorry, there's yard work happening outside, of course. We're just gonna work through it because PAX is this week and I can't be fucked. Okay, let's go. Her brows are furrowed, lips in a tight line, both hands moving in precise movements as she shifts through each sheet. When she finds something of note, she moves closer, nose almost touching whatever paper she's holding, and grabs her phone to call someone.
Hello. Sorry to call you this late. There's something I just want to confirm, if that's okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. Thanks anyway. Not that one either.
It's a cycle. She goes through call after call, then after the last one ends, she shuffles through the pile again and dials another number. Is it work? I've never seen her this engrossed with her own work before. Otherwise, she would have noticed my presence the moment I've reached our floor. After the 9th call, she still appears as oblivious to it as when I've arrived. When she lets out a loud sigh this time, I immediately take that as an opportunity to interrupt.
Isabella, you know the house rules here.
At once, her head jerks back and hits the concrete wall behind her with a thump. There's the Isabella I know. Glad it's still there. I allow her a moment to nurse it before speaking again.
Becca, you're late.
Yeah, I ran into a little trouble at the cafe. But I brought food for the two of us, if you haven't eaten anything yet.
As anticipated, she grins once I raise the bag of food I'm holding. Yet it doesn't reach her eyes. There's nothing of the cheerful glint in it this time. Just a hollow tone for the sake of being polite. Ashton's right. Something happened.
Yeah, maybe later. I've gotta finish this first. Just leave it here. I'll eat it once I'm done.
So she's not in the mood to eat. There could be lots of reasons for that.
Thanks, Becca.
You can't eat this here. You know how the landlady would react.
I'm sorry, you guys have a landlady for, like, 50 apartments? I'm not sure I understand that.
Why are you even working outside? Your room's right there.
I know. Sorry. It just feels stuffy in my apartment right now. I'll go back inside once everything's been aired out. I promise.
That has never bothered you before.
You could just open a window.
Well, it bothers me now.
Oh, really? Just now? I find that hard to believe.
What's with the 3rd degree? Damn.
Yeah? Shouldn't you be happy? I mean, you've been complaining even if it's not your room. Now I know how you're feeling when it's messy, so I'm going to clean. Isn't that a good thing?
In spite of what's supposed to be a good news, an exhale comes from me, drawn out and slow.
It's a good thing, Isabella. Believe me. But you're as bad as Zachary at lying. What's really going on?
She hastily averts her eyes. A surefire indicator this is going to be one of those lengthy conversations that can possibly end with the other person angry. Again, it's one thing I'd like to avoid tonight at all costs. Still, I made a promise to Ashton and Zachary. If she didn't talk to them, who else is she going to talk to? If she keeps this all to herself, who knows what might happen?
Isabella, you can tell me. Is it about your family?
A slight movement of her lips. Although a frown, it's a reaction at least. I'm getting there.
Rose?
She merely shakes her head. Just a little more.
Come on, I know something happened. I don't know if it's because of Rose, but I know it's related to her somehow. You weren't here when I visited this morning, and both Zachary and Ashton are worried about you. If you don't want to tell them, you can tell me. Does it have something to do with work? Office?
If I didn't know her, I might have missed it. She shifts then, her fists clenching tight and teeth biting her lower lip. And there's fear. The look of terror in her is the last thing I expected to see out of everything. Her mouth trembles briefly before she opens them. When she finally voices it out, the words simply spill out of her mouth. One after another, all of it. True to what I've promised her, I listen. Because this is something she's been keeping to herself, even from the two most dependable people I know. The fact she chooses to tell me this speaks a lot to me.
Becca, she was there again.
My god, they're finally talking about this. God, we've been playing this game for what, like 20 hours? Nobody's mentioned the ghost girl to anyone else.
Last night? In the office? Boss passed me all of Rose's workload yesterday. For the Ermengarde mansion. I had to stay late to finish them all. And then, when I was about to go home, I saw her. I saw her again. She was standing in front of me again last night, Becca. I couldn't get away. She was blocking the door. If I hadn't hidden myself, even if I made the tiniest noise, if she found me, Becca, she almost did. If she saw me under my table, I think that would have been the end of it. I'm scared. I'm so scared I won't be able to do anything.
By the end, her hands are trembling and her breathing comes out in rasping intervals. For a long moment, I let the silence stretch out between us, let her sobs fill it instead. But even as her soft whimpers die down minutes later, there's a heaviness hanging in the air. Not just from her, but also from me. From my exasperation over this whole matter. From my own frustrations over her stupid superstitions, when she could do us all a favor and grow a backbone. Wow. She may be young, but she's no longer that young. It's about time to put an end to this. She can't keep going on like this. She's still got plenty of years to live out. And what if she goes home? What if we're no longer there to keep her fears in line with what's real? What would she do then? I'm more afraid for her, for what that kind of imagination will do to her, than of what some imaginary monster could. But with the manner she's looking at me right now, there's an expectation in it, a hope, and a plea sewn together. She wants me to believe her this time. If it's like that, then what am I supposed to say now? What she wants to hear, what she needs to. This is kind of like an annoying choice because we as the audience know the truth. But like coming at it from Rebecca's point of view, you know, like what would be the canon choice would be this again? With everything that she just said leading up to this. But we're gonna go with this because I want them to finally address this ghost girl issue. We've gone like, 4.5 chapters now, and the ghost girl just keeps like popping up and nobody says anything, and I feel like this might open the door to some interesting conversations at least. Okay, we went back up to neutral, not that it matters. As much as I want to set her straight, a reprimand isn't what she needs right now. Yeah. With that pouty face she's giving me, I doubt it'll even end well if I push it. I know her. When she wants to be stubborn, she's stubborn. Yet she's also clear. Okay. This isn't about her being stubborn, but alright. But there are moments when she can be acquiescing, too. Times when she'll be more accepting of what I tell her, despite her inclination to disagree with it. That talk can wait. In the meantime, I'll be the ear that listens to her without judging her, without criticizing her, despite my own opinions on it.
You should have called me.
She stares at me like I've grown another head, and a laughter slips out before I can stop myself.
There? I can't do that! What will you do? Hit her with a book? You'll be dead before that happens. And
That isn't what I'm talking about. After you got out, you should have phoned me. You didn't have to go to Zachary's.
The corners of her mouth curl up, a sheepish smile, by general definition, but this is Isabella. Her smiles are never half-hearted, never lacks her high spirits. In spite of this, I know everything's going to be okay, somehow. After all, she's learned how to pick herself up long ago, long before we met.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I don't even remember how I ended up in Zach's place. I was in a hurry to get out of the office, and it was already late. Besides, I don't really think you'll believe me if I wake you up over something like that.
That's beside the point. True or not, there are people who will always be concerned about you. There's Zachary, but he's the first person you went to, and you didn't tell him anything. You just slept there. There's Ashton too, and me. But how do you think I'll be able to explain to your aunt or your family if you suddenly disappeared? Think about that.
Right. I'll remember that next time.
Then she grins. Playful and mischievous, a preamble to an old banter. Still not quite there, still not quite her usual self, but with it, I know we're bound to get her back soon.
Mom.
I told you not to call me that.
I send an elbow to her side for added measure, but when laughter follows the familiar gesture, none of it is unexpected. This is what's comfortable. This is how we found an equal ground despite our stark differences. So for the moment, I accept things as they are. Afterwards, a hush stretches out before us. For Isabella, this is rare. This isn't her. Yet in this moment, as she fiddles with the edge of another paper near her, as she hugs her knees close to herself and lets a pensive expression linger on her, it feels strangely fitting. As if this is where everything's supposed to lead to, if we allowed it long ago. Seconds later, the moment is broken by the sound of a door easing open and a voice begging some little peace.
How many times have I told you girls not to loiter around the hallway? It's noisy. Some people here are trying to sleep.
Shut up, landlady.
Quiet down or go do your talking inside. I'm pinning a memo to your door the next time this happens.
Ooh, a memo. I'm shaking in my boots.
Millennials.
We're not going to get into what baby boomers are responsible for in the current state of the world, but you better cool it.
Sorry, we won't do it again.
You'd better.
Yeah, enjoy your social security. Fuck you. The door closes and Isabella starts gathering the mess she's made, carefully stacking them all in her arm. At a loss for what to do, I help pick them or the first time. Wait, okay. First of all, at a loss for what to do, I help pick them up, and for the first time, I get a closer look at it. I understand that this wasn't originally written in English, but like clearly they had someone look over it because it's not a Google Translate job. They had someone who knows English and who knows rather obscure words, you know, is able to speak it or write it quite fluently, look over it. But there's just so many errors still. I don't get it. I know it's a lot of dialogue to look over, but how can a proofreader possibly let this sentence get past? I just don't get it. Completely unintentional, of course. But it catches my attention nevertheless, and a confused frown makes its way to my face. Why is she looking through this? I look to her for an explanation, but she merely ignores the question in my eyes, takes the paper off my hands, and finishes cleaning up. The last paper she puts on top is a letter. The one she supposedly found in the mansion was probably the root cause of this odd behavior. I shoot her a questioning look for that too. But all she gives me is a smile. And in a halting tone, so completely unlike her.
Becca, I'll find a way out of this. You guys don't have to worry about me. Anyways, I should go. I'll see you later.
Where are you going?
Getting myself some food. Don't wait for me.
Isabella walks away before I can stop her. Before I can remind her I've brought food enough for the two of us. She quickly disappears down the stairwell, while I'm left standing in an empty hallway, holding 2 bags of takeout. One of them will go uneaten tonight. Just an innocent passing thought. One that I don't dwell much on as I head back to my room. I ignore all of it, in the same way I've assumed I won't ever encounter that douche again. Where is it? I gotta stay on top of these new notifications, or else they start piling up. Where is it? Okay, here we go. Okay, we finally made it to the 27th. The brief lull the past 2 days has offered is nice while it lasted. Okay, right, I get it. Or as nice as it can get with worries of Isabella's whereabouts creeping up to me every now and then. She hasn't showed up after that last talk we had in the hallway, and the dinner I bought has since been given to a different neighbor before it spoils. By all means, this shouldn't be anything to lose sleep over. She's gone on work trips before, usually for a day or two. This might simply be one of those. Although it's often with a message saying exactly where. But it's the dour note she has ended our last chat with that gnaws.
Like an ugly premonition.
And as expected, just as things start to settle and a steady rhythm finally worms its way back into my routine, Thursday morning brings further disturbance to the now calm waters. With little ceremony, though still enough to ripple through everything. In retrospect, I really should have seen this coming. Luxburn is a small city, relatively speaking, compared to, say, London or Glasgow. It's nothing but a tiny mass of land boasting a mere population of 68,000. But those numbers alone are nothing to scoff at when standing in a busy street. And if you pay close enough attention, faces taking the sidewalk or riding the subway will soon grow familiar. How unfortunate that out of that number, as to be Tio fucking Luke, I encounter more than once.
Oh, you know, a few problems popping up here and there that the agents failed to tell us somehow.
Golly.
Nothing a few hired hands can't fix, of course.
I feel like Luke is probably the character that's been interacted with the most over all the chapters that we've played. It seems like he's the most important character to the story, which is why I believe that he's possessed. Kind of explains a lot.
I would have preferred a place near the city and something that's new to save us all the trouble. But darling wife insisted. Who am I to say no?
Ah, are you kidding me?
His smug head is the first thing I see upon turning into the hall, in spite of the small crowd of parents and students gathered at the corridor for the primary's career day. It's not that he stands out, he's pretty unremarkable at first glance, frankly. However, it's his countenance that draws people's eyes to him. The manner he carries himself with all the confidence in the world, his mere presence dwarfing everything around him. I'm willing to make a bet he's also enjoying the attention it garners him, especially the ones coming from the women.
What an ass.
A single glance at him and I know immediately that, one way or another, if we ever bump into each other again, my day will effectively be ruined in some capacity. He also exudes that air. The sort that makes you want to run him over with a lorry and pass it off as an unfortunate accident. First you want to leave him for dead in a ditch. Now you want to run him over and make it look like an accident. With him, it's either you want to punch him or let yourself be charmed. There's no in between. I'll gladly do the honor of the former myself, but alas, there are people around us. Now I'm stuck with having to face one of the two.
I shouldn't have volunteered.
At the time, helping out sounded like a good idea. I have no classes left today until after lunch. I could have opted to stay at the teacher's lounge and work on my lesson plans, but that means being left alone with our deputy head and his chatter. He's a good man, but crivens, he can talk anyone's ears off. Crivens! I don't know how to pronounce that still. So the moment an opportunity rose, I jumped on it. It's a simple task to boot. Just deliver a whole box of materials and a few posters for the event. Maybe, oh. Sorry, that was my, oh. Adobe Creative Cloud decided to let me know that it updated. Just deliver a whole box of materials and a few posters for the event. Maybe stay around to assist if time will allow it. I just wasn't expecting him to show up here. Out of the frying pan and into the fire. Had I known, I would have stayed and suffered through our deputy's impromptu speeches about his life crisis instead. But what's done is done. Going back is also out of the question. With how unexpectedly heavy the load I'm carrying is, I'd hate to lug this for a trip back just because my pride can't take another second of interaction with the guy. He's insufferable, right? But I've had my fair share of dealings with teens of, more or less, the same temperament. All considerably younger than him, and they listened. If he wants to be difficult like last time, so be it, but he can bet his sorry English ass I'm not standing down. Left with no other choice, I brace myself and suck in a breath, mustering every patience I have as I step into the hall. My grip on the box tightens when I pull it closer to me, and attempt to assume a low-key air as I amble toward the room. The box is not big enough to hide my face, even with the stuff piled on top, but if all else fails, I can just hit him with it. Still, a small prayer forms in my head. If there's even one listening out there, please grant me enough restraint. Better yet, I hope he doesn't notice me at all. That'll definitely make my life easier. Seriously, how hard can it be? He's standing a few ways from the door, and there are plenty of people between us to use for cover. If I'm careful, I can just go in, hand in the stupid box to whoever's in charge, forget every plan of staying longer than necessary, and step out as soon as I can. Easy as pie. But as luck would have it, the exact moment I reach the room's threshold, someone barrels toward me. She latches onto my waist before topping the sudden commotion with a gleeful squeal. Guess who it is?
I knew it's you!
The force of it nearly threw me off balance, sending those items stacked atop the box tilting dangerously to the sides. With the child's added weight to my waist pinning me on the spot and both of my hands occupied, watching is the only thing I'm able to do. The short seconds in between slows as everything gradually slides off the box's small surface. Under different circumstances, this would have made for a funny story some other time. Comical, even. Until another set of hands reaches out and steadies the posters, threatening to take a nosedive right to the floor. Careful now, Daisy. Don't make a mess here. I don't know why that's not voice acted. My entire body freezes. Upon hearing his voice alone, an irrational impulse to hit him immediately bubbles up. But before my limbs could catch up with what my brain is currently screaming at me, he moves to take the burden off my arms. Irritation gives way to surprise. Then confusion. It is in that moment when instinct finally kicks in and I tug the box closer to me before he could fully lift it off.
What are you doing?
What does it look like? You're surprisingly slow on the uptake for someone of your profession, aren't you? Bloody, doesn't this school have people for this kind of work? So much for being a center of academic excellence.
I'm going to ignore that slight to my alma mater and my work, because that's not what I'm trying to get at. You know what? Why don't we just rephrase that to something you'll easily understand? Why exactly are you doing this?
Well, you look like you could use a bit of help. Have you seen your face while you were heaving this around?
Mister, I'm pretty sure if there's ever a look on my face, it's entirely because I saw something extremely unpleasant this morning.
Aren't you a ball of sunshine today, Daisy? Having a bad day, aren't we?
Oh, you have no idea.
I'd put it away if I were you. You might scare the children.
You don't have to worry about that. This isn't my department. I was just asked to bring these. Anyway, I can handle this myself, mister. The room's just right over there. Behind you, in fact. Now, if you could please move over and make way, it would do the whole world some good.
Keeping my voice level throughout is a miracle in itself, but regardless of how polite my request is, he doesn't budge. Did what I've just said merely flew over his head? Were my choice of words really that difficult to comprehend? Surely it shouldn't be that hard. I think he might be a little touched in the head. I like to ask him that actually, but Kylie chooses that instant to pipe in, probably for the best.
Don't worry, Miss Pink. Teo's strong. You can leave this to him.
Thank you, adult pretending to be a child.
My papa does it lots of times, but I'm not allowed to talk about it to anyone. Teo says it's
Confidential, Munchkin.
That's right. Teo's smart, isn't he, Miss Pink?
I'm still of the opinion that he's a piece of shite, but I must admit his Goddar's excitement is contagious, as always. A smile makes its way to my lips. She has yet to budge from her place, though to be honest, I'm starting to lose some feeling on my stomach with how tightly she's wound her arms around
I'm
it.
sure he is, Kylie. But I'm also sure he'll find better use for it elsewhere.
Like helping you out.
Oh, well, that's one thing, but
You heard the kid.
no one's asking you.
Oh, you wound me, woman.
And I'm quite certain I can do more damage than that. Shall we give it a try? Again?
He pales, stammers for a bit, until he ultimately decides against saying anything and settles for a brief show of discomfort instead. He's probably having flashbacks to the last time we met. His composure when he finally regains some of his bearings says it all. It's nothing short of hilarious if I do say so myself.
I'll have you know that threats never work on me, Daisy. Not in a million years, not ever.
You're assuming it's a threat. How cute.
It's a promise.
That too. I'm not scared of you. Just because you landed a hit.
Do go on. Keep telling yourself that.
It was a fluke, you hear? I was caught off guard and your damn book left a dent. If I end up in a hospital because of what you did, I'm sending the chief of Luxburn Police after you, woman.
You don't say.
Just give me that bloody box.
He snatches it out of my arms, for a single word of protest exits my mouth and quickly disappears behind the classroom. Not that it matters who brings it in now. My prior irritation has already melted into amusement. He's not so bad once you figure out how his temperament works. It's almost similar to a child. Maybe he's possessed by a child. Maybe he's possessed by the child of the former owners. The illegitimate child from the handmaiden. Because this isn't the first time he's been compared to a child. The butler has done it. Marianne has noted that before. I believe Hannah's commented on that. Though I still have to ask.
Kylie, did your Tio eat something bad before coming here?
Here's another thing. Okay, so sorry to get off track. He did in like chapter 2. Luke called Zachary a quote Negro, and that's a very 19th century way of speaking about someone. It furthers my belief that he's possessed. Okay, sorry. That was a sort of an aside that I just kind of clicked.
He's unusually nice today.
He might not be possessed. Maybe he's only possessed when he's in the house. Or, I don't know. A far-fetched idea, I know, but it's the only reason I can think of why this arsehole is suddenly acting like a decent human. He's quite frankly far from being. Yeah, and this is another thing, is that we're often seeing him in conflicting personalities. It's like sometimes he seems like he's possessed, like he's acting like a total chode. And then other times, like, he's sleazy. He's kind of douchey. But he's not an evil person, right? First and foremost, we didn't end our last meeting on a good note. If I were him, I'd avoid the very person who put a dent on his skull, as he so aptly put it. Why is he acting friendly 2 days later?
He always is. But I made him promise to be extra nice to you since you helped me so much. I think you're gonna be great friends.
I quickly stomp on the urge to groan loudly or gag at that. He's the last person I'd ever want to be chummy with in this whole city. But Kylie doesn't need to know that. Rebecca, come on. You guys are gonna become friends. It's obvious.
Are you sure it's not something he ate during breakfast?
I gave him some jelly babies this morning. Really brought me lots of them. Mama said I should share, so I offered half of it to Tio when he picked me up. He likes the black ones.
Sorry, okay.
Oh, that's probably why he's weird. Jelly baby overdose.
He could have done everyone a favor and choked on them while he's at it. All right, so let's go through the list of ways that she wants him to die. In a ditch, left for dead somewhere, run over with a lorry, choking on jelly babies. Okay, we've got 3 items on that list of ways Luke can die by Rebecca.
Do you want some? I've got more. I couldn't find Melody or Takako this morning, but I'm sure they'll be fine sharing some of it with you.
No, I'm not really very fond of them. I was just asking. Oh, where's your mom, by the way?
Out of town with Papa.
An unexpected pang hits me at her words. The statement, though innocent enough, unearths a whole trunk of memories from childhood, so eerily familiar. Nights spent eating dinners alone, the number of days coming home to an empty house growing with each passing year, and sometimes several Christmas Eves spent with relatives instead of my own family. It's too late to think about it now, but when I remember, the dull ache is still there, familiar, though lessened by the years now. Beside me, Kylie takes a step back, having gotten tired of clinging to me. There's nothing but cheer in her. She doesn't seem too affected by the fact. Although it makes me wonder how much of it is real and how much it is there to mask the loneliness, if there's even one. What a lucky child.
Weren't they informed of career day beforehand?
Yeah, I told them all about it. Mama was looking forward to it.
And they still left?
Uh-huh. It's important business, so it can't be helped. They promised to tell me about it when they come back tomorrow, though. Papa said he'll give me a gift if I behave. I've been a good girl, right, Miss Pink?
You're a spoiled brat, to be honest, but...
You always are. But they asked they asked your Tio to look after you? For this?
Nope, they didn't.
No? Then how?
It was supposed to be Tia. Mama likes her better than Tio, so she asked her, but she's sick and had to visit the doctor today.
Somebody's pregnant. We already knew that.
That's supposed to be a secret, by the way. But I think it's a bit confusing because Tio said she also went shopping. That's unfair. Don't you think so, Miss Pink? Mama doesn't allow me to go out when I'm sick. It's still okay, though, since Tio always buys me sweets before we go home. I'm gonna ask for a parfait today. Extra large. Don't tell Takako, okay?
Listening to her like this, it's easy to get a picture of where Kylie's fondness for the guy comes from. She's far from a demanding child, unless she made a promise of some sort. She never forgets those. She'll make friends with anyone, wherever she is. Buy her a few things, and voila, you're settled. No wonder she's so attached to the man. The douche probably showers her with gifts whenever he can. I can't say if the sentiment's the same for the latter, however. He doesn't seem the type, and probably just does it for the sake of getting some peace and quiet whenever he's with the girl. Classic techniques.
But before that, I'm gonna show him to everyone first. It's gonna be great. No one else has a gazillionaire fairy godfather. Also, when I grow up, I'm gonna be exactly like him and marry someone really handsome. Like Tia did. That way, I can be awesome too.
There's some sort of misguided logic in there that I'd like to correct. But before I can say my piece, douchebag steps in, fresh out of the commotion from the classroom behind us, and plows into the conversation with every subtlety a wrecking ball has. No shite given, despite no one asking for his opinion.
Munchkin, sweetie, trust me. You don't have to marry someone for that to happen.
I don't?
Just do your thing, darling. I'm quite sure you can do great things on your own without lugging around an extra baggage with you.
Tia married you.
Kylie drops the statement without any sort of preface, and the moment it lands, the douche finally finds himself grappling with the conversation.
Yeah, well, that's true, Munchkin, technically. But it's not the same thing.
A small frown creases the girl's eyebrows as she tries to comprehend her Tio's rather vague explanation. It's not surprising either when Luke tenses under the child's questioning gaze. It's familiar. I've seen the same look a great deal of times before on Ashton whenever he's trying to say something he can't quite phrase. Another second passes before the douche moves, kneeling in front of Kylie and placing both of his hands on either side of her shoulder. Kind is the last word I'll ever use to describe the man, but in this minute there's a smile on his face I can't place. Tender by all means for someone as obnoxious as him. It's a curious thing to see, if not a bit odd.
Listen here, sweetie. Tia was already a great person before she met me.
She is? But I don't see her doing anything. She's always at home.
Not always, Munchkin. Did you know she's really good at numbers?
You're good with them too. You helped me with my homework once.
Well, Tia's much better than me. She used to do maths with big numbers.
Oh, like millions?
No, gazillions. And she's really, really good at it. So much so that her dad let her manage anything that had to do with it. That was even before she met me, too.
Does that mean she's better than you?
Oh, leagues, Munchkin. Way, way better than I'll ever be.
For some reason, I don't think he's still talking about his wife's mathematical prowess as his voice trails off. In fact, if I've not been paying closer attention, I wouldn't have noticed the change in him. The slight shift in his smile from one that's tender to something wistful, like remembering a memory he has always been fond of, but has often kept to himself. And at the fleeting glance of it, a tiny insignificant part of the world somehow also shifts. Opinions changing, impressions moving.
You know what? Why don't you ask Tia next time you have homework,
Okay, next time I'll ask her to help out.
See? No need to marry a good-for-nothing bloke.
Can I also tell her to not stay at home anymore? If Tia's good at it, I'm sure she can help you out too. And Papa. He computes a lot of numbers too. Tia can help him.
You go do that. I'm sure she'll love to hear it, Munchkin, even if it's been a while since.
Another silence from him. Then without missing a beat, he turns Kylie around and lightly pats her shoulder in a gesture to end their conversation right here and there. Probably before he can say other things he's never intended to say, or a child is not meant to hear.
But off you go first. I think I saw your friend run off to the other classroom. The one with the pigtails? Go say hi to her. You still have those jelly babies to give her, yes?
All right. But wait for me, okay? I've got loads more to show you. They put up my drawing on the bulletin the other day. I'm gonna take you there later. I'll be back.
She soon disappears behind the small crowd, none the wiser to the sudden change in mood around her. Luke straightens as soon as she's gone. The expression on his face grows less kind now that there's no one to reassure. Despite that, a chuckle still escapes me. His head quickly snaps at me, an accusing glare clear in his eyes. Although it's less threatening now, considering what I've witnessed earlier. Funny how one person's impression of someone can easily change with that minute detail.
Why are you laughing like that?
Don't mind me. I just saw something surprising today. Don't let it bother you.
You know, putting it like that won't make me any less inclined to ask. What is it, woman? If this is another one of your threats, I've already told you it isn't going to work on me. That good teacher act isn't going to fool anyone.
What makes you think it has to do with you? I could have just remembered something funny. Not everything in this world revolves around you, mister.
I am not daft, Daisy. It's on your face for all the world to see. Now, say it so we can be done with this stupid talk.
I let out another laugh. More to delay than to express any sort of amusement over the matter. In truth, I don't know where to start. One wrong move, one wrong word, and I might offend the man. Oh, here's a choice. He's childish enough for that, even if what I'm about to say are just mere honest observations. You're good at handling her. You really think that? You're good at handling her. Whoa, it went way up. We're only down with Ashton. Oh well, regardless of how he reacts, it's not like it'll have an impact on anything between us. I have no plans of getting too friendly with the man, though he might have some good points. Emphasis on might. The best treatment I can hope myself to give him is to stop thinking of him as a sleazy douche. Besides, after seeing that look on him, I figure someone like him can use a little compliment here and there. He probably doesn't get it much considering how coarse his own language can
Can't
get.
you act a wee bit polite for even a second of your life? It won't kill you. You'll easily get answers that way, you know? Instead of demanding things from people like a temperamental man-child.
I'll be nice when I want to be, woman. Don't tell me what to do.
And here I was just thinking how you're doing a brilliant job as Kylie's guardian. Was I mistaken?
Was I mistaken? What? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Stop playing dumb. I hate to admit it, but you actually seem to be good with kids. Possibly even better than most of the teachers here. What do you know?
I expected him to just take it all in, bloat his ego more, and even brag about it. Instead, what I get from him is a sound resembling a squawk. Or maybe that's him choking on his own pride. I can't tell above the hubbub surrounding us. But when I glance at him, only a mortified expression is on his face.
No.
No? You should be proud of yourself. At least there's this one good thing about you. Isn't that nice to hear? Pretty sure not a lot of compliments get thrown around about you, knowing how you are.
There are a lot of good things about me, Daisy. My hair, for one. There's also my extraordinary good looks. Wax lyrical about those all you want. I'd be happy to hear it any day. Praise anything about me, but that.
What is so repulsive about it? Even Kylie likes you. Shouldn't that tell you anything about yourself?
Kylie is one kid, not even my own. Trust me, you do not want to see me bring a spawn of my own into this world. It will be an abomination.
Is that what you keep telling yourself?
Maybe. Is it any of your business?
No. But if I didn't know any better, I'd say this is because you yourself think you're a little piece of shite and somehow it'll pass on. It doesn't work like that, by the way.
That last remark just came out. There might be a sliver of truth in it, but I shouldn't have phrased it like that. Even for my own standards or the kind of person I'm talking to, it's still quite rude. An apology is already at my throat, but the minute I open my mouth, all of what I prepared myself to say dissipates. Lost in the moment in front of me, he has turned gaze outside, staring at some point past the buildings, blocking the view of the sky, equally lost in his thoughts. He's a vexing man under so many standards. However, in this moment, the morning light streaming from the window lends his features a certain air. Softer, less severe than what he often flaunts. I might as well be looking at a different man. There's a tender note in his voice when he finds it, the words muttered under his breath, not intended for anyone but himself. Nevertheless, it reaches my ears, unintentional as it may be.
You're right. She deserves someone far better than me.
All that talk about self-worth makes some sense now. It isn't some profound knowledge he pulled out of his arse. It has come about because he's already been there, likely still stuck in the middle of it. Preaching about your own personal experience is easier, after all. Less room for mistakes, more for a dose of self-loathing. What a complicated man. Just when you thought you'd already had him figured out, he does one thing and says the other. People like him are the most difficult to gauge, far harder to understand. Yet it might be exactly for this reason why some are so easily charmed by him. It's the mystery that catches them, of wanting to find out what underneath that bravado. I won't count myself among those yet. His winning personality isn't exactly my cup of tea. But sometimes once you get a glimpse of what's beyond that machismo. Machismo? Yeah. Macho, right? Machismo. Yeah. Empathizing with the man isn't such a steep hill to climb. If the comfortable silence we now share tells anything, that is. Perhaps this is as close to friendship as we can get. Several insults flung around with a few shared silences in between, and that's not exactly a bad thing. He's not exactly a bad guy either, despite the awkward start we've had. Maybe it's for this reason that I can't resist throwing in a little comment to lift his mood before relieving him.
You know, Luke, you're not such a bad person.
Is that supposed to make me feel better? I'm touched, Daisy.
Take it how you will, but a little attitude change would help. A lot.
Oh, bollocks. Right, of course. Let me know when you're done with your lecture, ma'am.
And you can probably start by not leaving your wife out while you're having some quality time with your goddaughter. Who knows? Maybe that'll help change how the child sees her.
Where did you even get the idea I'm leaving my wife out? Have you ever even met?
No, but I did see her with you two last time.
His indifferent expression quickly dissolves into a confused scowl, while I meet it with matching perplexity. It has only been 2 days. Surely his memory isn't that bad.
What? When was this?
At the cafe, after you left. She was sitting right beside you. Kylie was at the back and you were driving.
Oh.
Daisy, are you sure you haven't accidentally hit yourself with your own book? Because that damn thing's quite thick, and I'm really getting worried about you. It has only been a few days, and concussions can be dangerous. I suggest you have that checked.
Well, you asked. I just answered. It's pretty rude to make her wait like that, by the way.
How can I make her wait when she's not even with us?
What?
It was just Kylie and I that night.
Now you're just pulling my leg.
Luke exhales, long and drawn out. There's been lots of sighs this chapter. His impatience rapidly changing the companionable air around us. In the face of it, I tense. I've accidentally stepped into another minefield. Any chat I've had with him so far has been like this. Why this still surprises me, escapes me. But above my worries of offending this man is my own bewilderment. I remember well enough what I saw that night, yet he says something completely different.
Wifey was out with Kylie's mummy that night. She wasn't with us. How do you think I ended up on babysitting duty?
But in the front seat. And Kylie's...
Miss Pink!
Kylie's sobs reach my ears first, and then her familiar weight returns around my waist again. Hot tears seep through my blouse as she buries her face in it, her arms winding tightly around me. Luke and I briefly exchange worried glances, his own lips shut tight with concern. Her cries are soft enough not to attract much attention. Most of the visitors have been ushered inside the rooms by now anyway. Those that still linger, though, watches our little group with great interest and concern. If I don't get a better handle of the situation, I have a feeling Luke will start yelling at everyone soon. Kneeling, I gently pull the girl away from me, cupping her face and wiping away her tears, creating little trails on her cheeks. Her mouth is drawn in a miserable pout when she peers up at me.
All right, Kylie. Calm down. What happened?
It's my friend!
Takako.
That's a little too vague, Munchkin.
Let her speak, Luke. Who is it, Kylie? Melody? Or was it the other one?
Yeah.
Did the two of you fight?
She nods, then immediately clams up after, letting her sobs communicate the story instead, or as much as her shaking shoulders can tell me. Right behind me, Luke gives a nervous huff while he shifts on his feet. He must not be used to handling children crying. What a wuss. Okay.
Sweetie, I won't be able to help you if you don't tell me what happened.
Seconds pass before she responds again. The tears are already gone when she finally musters the strength to talk, her cries subsiding to mere sniffles.
I wanted to give her the rest of the jelly babies, but she won't come out.
Where? Where is she?
In the little girl's room.
Is she still there?
Another nod.
I won't say what's wrong. I kept asking her, but she told me to go away. Career Day's going to start soon. I saw the prizes Miss Alice will give us for good. She's gonna miss it.
Is that what you told her?
Yeah, she won't listen. She won't even take the jelly babies. After I saved it for her, too. She and Luke wanted to eat the red ones, but I told him it's not for him. Miss Pink, can you talk to her? Tell her to come out, and I'm really upset with her.
Ah. Just a little childish argument, then. Times like this, I'm glad I teach teenagers mature enough for petty squabbles. I do love being around children and won't mind having one or two of my own in the future, but it takes a whole different level of patience to teach several of them. I honestly admire my colleagues who willingly took the challenge. Normally, I'll leave this for their homeroom teachers to fix, but I can't just ignore the imploring looks she shoots me. That's another weakness I'll have to steel myself against before I ever think of having one of my own. For now, I give in to it.
Okay, tell me where she is, sweetie.
Sighing, I stand up and gesture for her to lead the way. Luke trails quietly behind us. Here we go. Where is it? There we go. Okay. Even with the small distance in between, his apprehension is palpable, understandably so. No one wants to be caught in the middle of a children's spat. But in the end, this is all just a part of my job. I can't just shy away from it, can I? Kylie escorts us to an adjacent hall. At this hour, the corridors and the rooms lining its sides are empty, save for the gentle rustling of leaves, not rushing, sorry. The twittering of birds outside. The birds are tweeting. Oh, hashtag we live in the trees. Okay, I don't know. And the tapping of our foot against the floor. The whole area stays eerily quiet. Not unusual, though. This is the part of the building reserved for club activities at the end of the school day, and with the rest of the school busy with another event, it's only natural for it to be this deserted. Come afternoon, right after class, it'll once again be filled with people. For the time being, I focus on the toilets at the far end, heading straight for it. Luke stays behind, opting to wait for the end of this drama instead, obviously not wanting to deal with another person's kid. Meanwhile, Kylie follows right after me, unusually silent as we approach the ladies' room. Sometime before we made the turn to his hallway, she has stopped sniffling and started singing a tune under her breath.
London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London
That's the song she was singing in the park.
down,
Probably to brace or calm herself, or maybe this is her way of preparing to pull her friend out of her sulk. Okay, good. It didn't loop. It certainly reminds me of another person. I make no remarks on it, however. It's all part of growing up, they say. Let her learn. The door is slightly ajar when we get to it, and from inside the sobs of a girl echo weakly, barely audible even in this kind of hush. Is it the same sobs that we've heard before? Are we going to hear them again? Turns out Kylie's not the only one upset about this. Yeah, it's the same one. Despite the situation, a smile forms in my lips as I call out to her friend.
Hello? Hello there? You're Kylie's friend, aren't you? Melody, is it? She's looking for you.
Children can be so amusing sometimes. Granted, they can be exasperating, especially around this age, but the endearing things about them outweigh those. All you need is enough level of patience.
Career day's about to start, too. You'll have to come out, or you're going to be really late for it. Miss Alice won't be happy if one of her kids isn't there. I heard she brought little gifts for everyone who'll behave. Don't you want to receive one?
However, her cries show no signs of abating. They only grow louder. Not close to a wail. Alarming, regardless.
Are you okay?
From where I'm standing, it sounds almost like she's in some kind of pain, and it's not impossible. They do that at times, hiding what ails them for fear of a reprimand. If it's like that, coaxing her out might be useless. It also makes sense why she chose the loo furthest from the classroom. Wasting no time, I gesture for Kylie to wait and amble towards the door, calmly so I don't alarm her. At the same time, a distinct sense of deja vu hits me. I've been in this position before, behind a door, with someone crying on the other side. My call is ignored as their cries grow into a wail. Just this past week, actually. Even so, being in the same situation before doesn't bring any comfort. I'm putting up for the child beside me. Is the thick undercurrent of worry trickling into my stomach. Okay. I take one last breath, then I nudge open the door. It all happens in the span of a second. I don't make it past 2 steps into the room. Her cries abruptly stop. Light footsteps shuffle behind me, coming to a halt at the door. My heart skips a beat. And when I turn...
Kylie?
Miss Pink? Miss Pink? Why didn't you help her?
My whole body becomes motionless at the sight of her, words catching in my throat and heart pounding rapidly against my chest. This is Kylie, I'm sure of it. Yet nothing in the manner she speaks. Sorry, I was thinking Miss Pink. Yet nothing in the manner she speaks or the way she tilts her head in question carries the youthful, innocent vibe she always brings with her. As if I'm really looking at a dead, hollow imitation of the child.
Can't you hear her? She's asking for your help.
But it is not those that trigger a memory. It's those chilling eyes. Calling. Beckoning.
Why won't you listen to her?
All at once the memory returns to me. A tide that has receded and now returns to shore with an overwhelming force, carrying images of a single moment from days ago. Of a world passing by in a blur, and of features I can barely discern under the little light there was. Not even a week has passed. And this minute, while I keep my eyes trained on the child before me, they return with such unbearable clarity. There are no horrid wounds this time, no blood streaming down a pale face. Thank heavens. Just lips contorted into a small, twisted smile. They brim with venom I've never expected to see in a child, sending tiny pinpricks of dread crawling up my limbs and winding up my neck. You're a bad person. People like you deserve to die. I can't breathe. Those whispers and laughters again, judging, mocking, taunting, each scathing word ringing sharp and true against my ears. My throat closes in. My whole body tenses. A chill settles in at the tip of my fingers, every digit gone rigid with the cold. With every single draw of breath, any struggle for air or freedom, the coils wrapped around my body tighten, dragging me down. A gradual, torturous descent to another bottomless abyss. On and on and on, until I lose touch with myself and the world.
Help me.
Until darkness claims me and, unexpectedly, a note. In the distance, harsh and piercing, cutting through the thick stupor and shattering the haze without warning.
Are you ladies done with your business here? I'll have all morning to wait for you two.
Did I accidentally skip one? No, I did. My eyes snap open, and the world shifts into place with a ragged gasp. When I glance up, a different set of eyes greet me.
Are you okay, Miss Pink?
No anger, no vile hatred in them, just plain, sincere concern. Bit by bit, I become aware of my surroundings and myself as warmth steadily slips back to me. I've reached out for the nearby counter to steady myself at some point, and my knuckles have gone white from how rigid my grip on it is. It's over now, yet the tension hasn't left my body. My heart still hammers hard against my chest in an erratic rhythm, and my breathing still comes in short, shallow bursts. Before me, Kylie fumbles with her hands, utterly unsure of what to do as an adult in what's probably a laughable state.
Did you get sick? I'll call Teal, okay? Stay here and don't move.
No. No need. Just leave me alone.
Teal will know how to fix you. Oh, wait, okay?
I wish I could speak reassurances to her, but I can't shake it off. The dread is there, twisting at my insides in anticipation. Of what? I am no longer sure. Pushing myself off the counter, I break off into a run, brushing off the anxious look Kylie gives me when I gently push her away on my way out, or the furrow in Luke's brows when I stumble into him outside. Whatever they both saw in my face, I care not to know. Bloody hell, I don't even understand what's happening anymore. Okay, well, yeah, that should about do it for this episode of The Letter. Got some horror there at the end. Let's see how far we've progressed through the chapter, shall we? Oh my god. I'm doing this like an hour at a time. This has to be the longest chapter in the game, or at least the longest so far. Damn. All right, let me know what you thought about this episode. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.